So we literally dropped all the SEO efforts. I think it was quite dramatic, but I was allowed to do it. We literally just stopped any SEO content. Some people still thinking that SEO and AEO come hand to hand, but because of the premise that I told you, we decided not to keep building pages for humans to consume, but more just for LLMs to read. And I think it's sustaining that decision is sustaining now, which is we see a lot of the traffic coming from LLMs crawling.
Welcome to Frank Growth. I'm Jason Shafton, and I run the growth consulting firm Winston Francois. Around here, we tell the truth about growing, the good, the bad, and the can't say it out loud ugly. Every episode, we get tactical with operators, investors, and builders about what works, what breaks, and what to do next. No fluff, no vanity metrics, no hustle theater, just signal. This is Frank Growth. Let's get into it. Today, we've got Jesus Requena, and we're going to talk about the AEO shift. Before we bring Jesus on, a quick riff on today's topic. The way people discover software is changing underneath every growth team's feet. Your buyer is asking ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity for a recommendation before they ever type a query into Google. If your content isn't the answer an AI gives, you don't exist in that moment. Here are 3 things I see going wrong. First is SEO nostalgia. Teams keep optimizing for page 1 rankings while their actual signups are coming from AI-generated answers that they can't see or control. 2, attribution panic. When you can't track the journey from AI answer to sign up, marketing leaders freeze instead of experimenting. 3, brand neglect. Everyone is chasing the algorithm of the month and forgetting that the strongest signal to an AI model is whether your brand is the one people actually reference and trust. Here's what I've seen that actually works. Structured content as infrastructure. Treating your content like data so AI models can parse, cite, and recommend it. And then experimentation velocity over perfection, running 20 small bets on AI-driven channels instead of one big SEO overhaul. And finally, brand as the ultimate moat. When AI commoditizes discovery, the company with the strongest brand reputation wins the citation. That's the frame we'll use with Jesus. Let's get tactical. Jesus, welcome to Frank Growth. 20 years of building growth engines from Melbourne to Copenhagen to the Bay Area. You've been VP of growth marketing at Figma during their run to going public. You scaled demand gen at Unity and Algolia. You ran growth at Hex, and now you're CMO at Sanity, which has raised like $173 million in total funding. And you're telling the world that the age of the CMS is now over. And you've done something that most B2B marketers are still theorizing about. You pivoted from traditional SEO to answer engine optimization, AEO, and it's actually working. 30% month-over-month sign-up growth. Let's get into it.
Love it. Let's do it. Thank you for having me, Jason.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. You built these growth engines at these incredible companies, Figma, Unity, Algolia, Hex, and now Sanity. They're developer-heavy, product-led companies. What's the common thread in how you approach growing a B2B product?
I think it's focusing on value. So most of these companies, well, first of all, they have something in common, which is technical audiences. And I think that is something that I managed to learn how to market to them, which is about showing, not telling, very practical marketing, not jargon, not a lot of friction or gates. So very open and developer to developer. So, but what they have in common is the strategies that I apply to these companies is really focusing on what adds value to that first time or second user, meaning how do we get them to realize that the product solves something that they're trying to solve in a better way that they are currently working on. And I think most of those companies had in common that they had a technical audience and the product had tremendous value for the ICs and for the teams. And we managed to create like content programs or developer advocate programs that really translated that into something tangible that they can go and do. I think that sort of practical go and do, show, not tell has been a common thread in my career.
Yeah. I love show, don't tell. I love creating value. You know, that for me, that bubbles up to something we talked about in our prior conversation that I really want to get into and spend a lot of time on the show with you is this kind of AEO playbook that you've developed and are really pioneering. If SEO was about ranking pages, AEO is about kind of being and delivering the answer, right? How do you intentionally design content to become the default answer inside of these AI systems?
We just saw a decline, like SEO traffic, like drop by a tenth. So a tenth of what it was before. And, Sanity had really good organic traction on G2 and like our own pages. We had automated through the AI, through the content operating system, a lot of the FAQ pages, and we had really good, strong stand on like some terminologies. And we saw that dropping dramatically. And I think that was a red flag for me that something was changing in the world. And I think we decided to do a big bet and say, well, our hypothesis was that in 12, 24 months, most people will get all the information that they need, like 90%, instead of navigating multiple pages into just asking LLMs. What we bet on was, well, most of the answers will be from LLMs. So what we need to do is make sure that the LLMs understands our content very well. And I think that was the first decision. And I think the second decision was third-party content is still very important. So let's track what these LLMs are crawling and how they're crawling it. So we optimized that. So we literally dropped all the SEO efforts. I think it was quite dramatic, but I was allowed to do it. We literally just stop any SEO content. Some people still thinking that SEO and AEO come hand to hand, but because of the premise that I told you, we decided not to keep building pages for humans to consume, but more just for LLMs to read. And I think it's sustaining that decision is sustaining now, which is we see a lot of the traffic coming from LLMs crawling.
Talk about the content that's designed for LLMs to consume. So what is kind of a high performing AEO? And I use the word page, but it almost sounds like you're describing something slightly different. And there's a philosophical shift there, not just a structural one.
I think it came down to three things. Like at the beginning, the first thing that we did was like, is the consistency on our website across the terms and concepts that we want the LLM to understand. Because this is all about visibility come from reasoning. So if the LLM can reason your concepts clearly, then it will recommend you. As simple as that, right? And again, it's not just your first-party content, it will be third-party too. But so we use our own product and some scripts to literally crawl our entire site and figure it out. What pages or terms are not clear and where? Where do we need to do the linkage between concepts, terminology, definitions? And so that was the first thing that we did. We updated like around 100, 200 critical web pages that they were literally obsolete. So that's the first thing that we did. And we started to see some visibility ranking improve. The second thing that we did is that we really wanted to optimize more content for the LLM. So we started creating content that was not optimized for humans, but the concepts and the callouts, the links in between in terms were really optimized for LLMs. So we assume this is not going to be read never by a human. We're just going to do it for the LLM. And we did first-party content, and then we did also microsites. So we started creating microsite with one topic that was all for the LLMs, done by us through AI and we created like an AI engine to write copy. And then the third bet that we did around what great content look for AEOs was the third party. We really understood that if the LLMs were reading your site and has some sort of reasoning about a concept or a term, and then they will go into third-party content and they will be mismatching, that was not going to be good. So we partnered with Arabs and we did quite a bit of an investment in fixing some third-party citations that they were like obsolete or contradicting to the story that we wanted to. And it's been 6 months of journey and it's been lovely so far. I think the bet was the right bet to do.
Yeah. So do you optimize for kind of the citations, the mentions, or the conversions in AEO? And how do you prioritize between those different?
That's a great question. I mean, we optimize for the three of them, but the first one is what I mentioned before, which is citations, which come from reasoning. If the LLMs is understanding your concept, the citations will come. The citations will also come from the third party. So we optimize for that. That's the first one. If you're not visible, it doesn't really matter anything else. So visibility is number one. So they understand your key concept. For example, I'll give an example so it's easier for the audience to understand. But we want to make sure that people understand that Sanity is a backend for building content applications for enterprises too, not only for mid-market or small companies. So we have a whole kind of theme around that type of content. And we want to make sure that all the things that if someone is reasoning with an LLM, like what do I need me as an enterprise or my enterprise team from a content operating system, like a content management system. So that's the first thing. So the LLM will say like, yep, Sanity is an enterprise CMS. So we went from ranking 15 or 20 in visibility to like top 5, just because we were feeding the LLM the right information that maybe wasn't available for it. And then the second thing is that once you become visible, you want to make sure that the actionable content is clear to the LLMs. So the way we consume content through LLMs is different to SEO, right? Like in the past, you will go and say, what are the top 10 X tools to do X, Y, Z? And then you come with a page that has the 10 tools, you click, and then you learn more about the tools. People are not clicking anymore. People are reasoning with the LLM. So they ask you more questions. Oh, tell me more about that. Can I do XYZ with Sanity? Can I do XYZ with the other competitor or whatever? So the other thing that we done regarding to your question about content is, can we have practical examples that then the LLM understand, oh, yes, you can do that with Sanity.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to start doing citations on like link. I pulled that from that page or from that page. So that's the second thing. We increase volume of like practical examples to associate it with those terms and whatnot. Which the SEO strategy historically, I think, was more long form content and terms and whatnot, right?
Yeah. What signals do the LLMs seem to reward most today? Is it authority, clarity, repetition, distribution? How do you operationalize around that?
That's a great question. I think authority, even though has changed, I think it matters. So what we learned on the AEO is that if you come in like first or two plays in mentions, you have the authority. That means that the LLM is reasoning that you're the best solution. And that happens because you have the authority in all the content behind it that is feeding into the LLM saying, yes, look, these are all the citations. So thought leader for the LLM, meaning the LLM is feeding most of the content for the reasoning on your links or citations that you have created or third party. You become the thought leader for the LLM. You're guiding the LLM to think certain way. And that practical example that I gave before on doing microsite actually has proven that. They're still running. They're not blocked by LLMs. Google blocked having third-party microsites a long time ago, but the SEO thing is dead. So we exclude them from Google and we just let the LLM read them. It just gives a lot of sort of content foundation for the LLM to reason again. And again, it's not just your content and you need third-party, but if you do a good balance, I think there's a path for you to get visibility. And to your point, we have proven that it brings value to the company because we have increased the growth of signups like 2x in a quarter or something.
That's incredible. What role, speaking of content, does proprietary content, benchmarks, data, unique kind of perspective play in winning in this new space versus kind of the more commodity how-to content that we all think about when we think of the SEO focused era?
I think both, but with the right balance. So we, for example, turn a lot of the FAQ pages that we have for SEO. We were crawling all our community questions and answers and our internal customer support answers. And we had AI building like automatic FAQ pages. This was like 2 years ago. And we turned those FAQ pages instead of like user-centric, LLM-centric. So I think that matters. And that is how-to content. Meaning no user is going to go to the FAQ pages, but the LLM will read it. And if someone has a technical, practical question to the LLM will reference that FAQ page. So that's important. And I think there was around 1,000 pages that we actually turned from user-centric into LLM-centric. But it matters a lot that you have very technical benchmark conceptual content on your services too. So not just practical. I think and we did around 5 microsites, which we own, and they all around one topic. So LLMs and context for agents. We have AI CMSs, like AI forward CMSs. We have enterprise CMSs. And we have a bunch of these concepts really embedded on long form content so the LLM understand based on data, benchmark, guidance, our own thinking, how are we the leaders in that topic kind of thing. And it's all like LLM-centric the way the content is structured on the page. So it's not for a human to read. I think it's very heavy for a human to read, but the LLMs love the content. And we got a lot of citations because of those microsites.
Microsite concept is a way to kind of create this structured information around the topic. You also published an AEO best practices toolkit for AI agents, which is interesting because you're literally building the infrastructure that makes your own marketing strategy work. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I think that's an advantage, to be honest, because the whole value of Sanity is having a structured content, which one is easier for the LLMs to read, but two allows you to then feed your content into your own agent or agentic workflows that you want to build for your own team, so or your end user. So I think we're playing with a bit of advantage internally.
Yeah. In a world where AI summarizes everything, how do you make sure that your brand doesn't get abstracted away from the answer?
That's a really interesting question because when we decided, and this was like 3 quarters ago, to drop SEO as one of the main channels, for the record, PPC too, like pay-per-click, we were seeing a lot of impressions but no clicks. So we dropped a lot of the expenditure there. Like we just minimized it to the ones that we still working. But it was clear to me, like probably even before that in this world, there was two things that are going to matter. Like one, what we just been talking about is you want LLMs to understand your business, your solutions, how practically your product gets implemented. You want a lot of content for the LLM to understand that. But the second thing, as users get more away and away from navigating your site or like community sites, which this is happening, you want to have a bigger brand presence. So we immediately realized that where if machines are going to read your content and humans just going to talk to these chats or like natural language kind of LLMs, what is left? Probably great experiences. So we started doubling down investment into brand awareness, events, in-person events, meetups, and all that stuff. So meaning we wanted people to find the brand through the LLM, understand what it does, but then when they go and really interact with us, to be more human, the brand to be like more, high touch, high quality. So we've been spending a lot into those things.
Yeah, talk about those kind of brand experiences, because PLG growth has traditionally relied on this kind of product discovery flywheel and not on brand. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, imagine a world like we for the record, we've seen almost 60% in the last month sign up from LLMs. The Claude is number one, ChatGPT, Gemini, kind of in that order. When you have such a large volume just coming through the CLI, so they don't even, and we have an NCP, a lot of these people are just using the NCP to create an account and then do unbill. They're not interacting with our web or our product UI much. So what happens is that what they're going to find is what they see on social, what the meetup that they're going to go and attend. They're going to find your swag store on social, and it's like, this is cool. So we wanted to elevate those different surfaces. So we invested in a swag store. We have a great swag. We have a new program on like meetups to high touch. We invested in brand campaigns, especially video. So we have a set of videos running and display ads, and we actually have an out of home campaign like billboards and whatnot. But we just wanted to be present. So for them to associate like, oh, that cool brand that I keep seeing in social and on ads or like on the street is the one that the LLM is recommending me. That association was easier when everything was more heavily digital, meaning your digital ads will drive you to your website and then you get the experience of the brand on the web. So I think what is shifting is more like LLM and then physical brand. So we've been investing a lot in the physical brand itself.
Let's talk about measurement. You said 40% of your signups are now coming through these kind of AI-driven channels. How do you measure attribution when the buyer journey starts inside of ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, instead of, a Google search box?
It was such a mess. Like, people are going to get amazed, but we have, number one is that we put the classic question, like, where do you find us? And there's an open question. They can type anything, and then we have AI categorizing those and like cleaning it up and whatnot. And that is what been kind of the proxy for where these people are coming from. And then obviously we had a proxy on like visibility and impressions correlated with traffic, direct and organic. There's not a straight link because people don't link from the LLM into the thing. And a lot of the signups are coming directly from the CLI or the LLM. So they spin up an account through it, meaning they don't even touch our web. So it has changed. We're just asking the user, like, where do you find us? And that's been the main driver. And we correlate that with the increase that we've seen in percentage of signups coming from the LLM self-described or self-reported is correlated with the increase in visibility, ranking, impressions from the LLMs, and the direct traffic growing or organic brand searches, which is literally what happens. Like, if something doesn't come from the CLI, they're going to literally type sanity.io or like go and type the brand in the search and then click the first one. So as soon as that correlation is like par on par, we feel confident that that's what is driving it. There's a mix. I think we've done quite a bit of brand in the last 2 quarters too. So I think it's a correlation between the LLM sort of recommending us and we pushing the brand too to make sure that they feel that we're everywhere.
You've said, I think, 30% month over month sign up growth. That's a number that most companies would kill for. How much of that is repeatable, kind of an engine that you've built now versus, some first mover timing and Sanity's position in the market?
That's a good question. I think those levels only hit in the last 3-4 months. For the last 6, we've been seeing a steady growth, and then in the last 3-4 months, we've seen like a deeper curve up. We don't know how sustainable it is. I think there's 2 hypotheses internally. One is that we tap into a new stream of users, which historically didn't come to us because of our NCP. So we've seen a little bit of a ratio of more like not that developer sign up, meaning it's a PM or like technical person, but I'm not a hardcore developer. The ratio has changed from 20% of those to 30 something. So it could be that that's driving. So we tap into a new audience, literally. So that audience might normalize at some point, meaning it's not going to keep growing at that steady. It might normalize the curve. We already, the bar, the baseline is already doubled. So even if we just keep growing at 5 to 10% month on month, the baseline is so much higher because of that new audience. The second one is that we potentially got this by a big boost of the NCP and CLI along with the LLM. So we must see the peak and then start stabilizing. So I think the hypothesis is that mid this year might drop from 30 to like below 20, but it's okay because the baseline has increased dramatically.
Yeah. If you were to help somebody who's starting from zero today with this kind of AEO strategy you've built, where would you tell them to start?
I would, if they have a technical person, do an audit of your website and audit whether the content on your site is telling the story that you want to tell and explaining the capabilities of your product or solutions the way the LLM should understand it. I will start there. That's not costly at all. And probably you're going to find out that you know where you should be. And then the second thing I would do is like start doing the same with third-party mentions. I mean, if you use any tracking tool, there's a bunch of them. Like we use Profound, but there's a bunch of tools out there. We try them, probably all of them. Go and check where in specific terms that you think LLM should understand that you are solving for. Who are these citing? Is the content beyond your own website getting cited from? Then figure out a way to tap into that and then either you cited the wrong way, like fix it, or if not, talk to the editor and then say, can you add me into your thing? I think that's a pretty old SEO strategy that still works today. So fix that. If you are more into agentic content creation or you have a content team, like I will start developing microsites ASAP on key terms that you want to own. But I will do it in that order. Like first, fix your content. Second, look into third party. And then third, if you have extra bandwidth, start creating microsite on terms. Those are the three things that we've done. Caveat, we put a lot of emphasis on Reddit. Reddit is apparently dying. Like LLMs are looking more into video now. So if you're starting, it's not a bad idea to say, do I have enough videos explaining what we are and having, in our case, it's show not tell examples. So then the LLMs will crawl the video and figure it out, like, what are you about? I think they're tapping a lot into YouTube. We're adjusting our strategy a bit to that.
And if you had to pick one area where you feel like you're not there yet in terms of what the opportunity is, a challenge or a growth opportunity, what's the one thing that you're excited to try next or kind of play with next?
We still have a bunch of terms that we have not dominated from our first party content. We have agents or multi-agent programs, like optimizing them continuously. We need to figure it out how to have 15, 20 agents doing this systematically nonstop. We have not figured it out. I have right now one individual internally that is great doing this and has maybe 5 to 10 agents. How do you scale that? We don't know yet. It's incredible because one person is managing all this content through agentic workflows and agents. And we have an internal tool called Myriad, and we also use cloud co-work and whatnot. How do you scale this? The future looks like one person can have 20 teams working for them. I don't know if we nail that. Do we have enough control, or these things can get out of control? How do we keep feeding them with the right context? How we give them the direction, feedback? That's something that we have not figured out.
Sounds like you at least have one human in the loop, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. Our internal saying is humans now handle the exception.
Yeah.
So before it was AI will handle the exception and the humans will edit and correct. It has reversed in the last 6 months. Now humans handle the weird exception. The agents are doing the work.
Yeah. All right. Jesus, this is a lightning round. So quick questions, quick answers. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What's one metric that you look at every week?
Work intent signups.
What's one growth experiment that failed spectacularly, and what did you learn?
I think probably having an agent on the side, on our home page, it didn't work out very well. We just didn't get enough traction. And we learned that maybe we need to rethink the role of an agent on website. This is what we do for a living, but we are recalibrating what is the role of an agent on a homepage.
Finish this sentence. The best growth marketers start with
understanding the users.
Couldn't agree more. What's a company that you admire that's doing great things with AEO right now?
Probably the vendors are doing great things. If you look at Profound or Aerops, they're actually themselves doing great stuff. That's what we're learning the most from, I guess.
Jesus, where can folks connect with you online and learn more about Sanity if they still go to websites?
Yes, I think people will connect personally on LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah. Humans will still interact even if it's not on websites.
Yeah. And what's the, so you're on LinkedIn, and then what's the website for Sanity?
Sanity.
Excellent. Jesus, this was real 20 years of building growth engines across multiple continents and many high growth companies. And you're still experimenting like it's day one. I love it. This is exactly the kind of topic that this show is made for. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
That was Jesus Requena and a tactical breakdown of what happens when you stop optimizing for search engines and start optimizing for answer engines. Here are my quick top 3 from today. If you don't remember anything else from the conversation, remember these. 1. Visibility comes from reasoning, not ranking. Jesus said it plainly. If the LLM can reason your concepts clearly, it will recommend you. That's the new game. Sanity crawled their entire site, contradictions across 100 to 200 pages, and made sure every term and concept told a consistent story, not for human readers, but for LLMs to parse and cite. They went from ranking 15th or 20th in the LLM visibility to top 5 just by feeding the models the right information. First-party consistency is the foundation of everything else in AEO. 2, build content for machines, then fix what the machines read about you elsewhere. Sanity's AEO playbook has 3 layers. First, they made their own site consistent. Second, they created LLM-centric content that no human would ever read. Microsites on single topics, 1,000 FAQ pages converted from user-centric to LLM-centric, all structured so models can reason from them. And third, they fixed third-party citations that contradicted their own narrative. That last piece is the one most teams skip. If an LLM reads your site and then reads something that contradicts on a third-party page, the reasoning will break. You have to own the story everywhere that the model looks. And 3, when users never touch your website, brand has to go physical. 60% of Sanity's signups last month came from LLMs. Many of those users created accounts through the CLI or MCP without ever visiting Sanity.io, their website. So Jesus made a counterintuitive move. He doubled down on in-person events, cinematic video, a swag store, and out-of-home billboards. His logic is simple. If the machines handle discovery and humans interact through chat and interfaces, the only brand surface left is the physical world. LLM plus physical brand is the new model. That's a fundamental shift from the last 6 years of web-first everything. Here's one action that you can take this week in 10 minutes or less. Pick one core concept your product should own. Ask 3 different LLMs what they know about it and whether they would recommend you. If they don't, or if the answer is inconsistent, you found your first AEO project. Audit your site for contradictions on that concept and fix them before you build anything new. That's Frank Growth. If this gave you something you can use this week, follow the show and share it with one operator or founder who needs it. I'm Jason Shafton from Winston Francois. We help tech companies build sustainable, repeatable growth with a proven operating system. Show notes and takeaways are in the description. Be frank and keep growing.